Constantinople, 626 AD. The richest city on earth wakes before sunrise. Across the Bosporus, Persian banners wave in the wind. On the western plains, Avar siege engines crawl toward the walls. The empire has nowhere left to retreat. This siege did not happen overnight. It was built by decades of exhaustion, broken treasuries, civil wars, and one final conflict between Rome and Persia. For centuries, Rome and Persia fought over the same frontier. Mesopotamia became a graveyard of armies. Every generation inherited another war. The empire was already weakened. Justinian's great wars had drained Rome's treasury and manpower. Victory in the west came at a terrible price. In the Balkans, Slavs and Avars raided Roman lands. In the east, Persia watched carefully. The empire was bleeding from every frontier. Then came Maurice, a soldier emperor determined to restore the empire through discipline and war. Maurice personally campaigned in the Balkans. For the first time in generations, an emperor marched with his army. Then Persia erupted into civil war. A Persian prince named Khosrow fled to Rome for help. Maurice restored Khosrow to the Persian throne. In return, Rome gained territory, influence, and peace. Heraclius inherited an empire already collapsing from civil war and invasion. Persian armies advanced rapidly, capturing fortress after fortress across the eastern frontier. What began as a border conflict was turning into a disaster that threatened Rome itself. In 614 AD, Persian forces captured Jerusalem after a brutal siege. Churches burned, thousands died, and the sacred True Cross was taken to Persia. Across the empire, many believed the end of the Roman world had begun. Persian armies invaded Egypt and seized the wealthy city of Alexandria. Rome lost its richest province and the grain supply that fed Constantinople. For the first time in centuries, total imperial collapse seemed possible. Instead of surrendering, Heraclius chose to rebuild the empire from nothing. Church gold was melted into coins while new armies were trained for war. The emperor prepared for a counterattack that could save Rome or destroy it forever. In 622 AD, Heraclius personally led Roman armies back into battle. The Persians expected another retreat, but instead faced disciplined counterattacks. After years of defeat, hope slowly returned to the Roman Empire. While Rome fought Persia in the east, the Avars attacked from the Balkans. Heraclius attempted negotiations, but the meeting turned into an assassination trap. Now the empire faced enemies advancing from every direction at once. By 626 AD, Constantinople stood surrounded by Persian and Avar armies. Enemy forces gathered on both sides of the Bosporus as fear spread through the city. If the capital fell, the Roman Empire itself could disappear forever. Inside Constantinople, panic spread as food supplies tightened and armies remained stretched thin. The emperor was absent, leaving the defense to generals, priests, and the city militia. Every wall, tower, and gate became the last hope of survival. The Avars launched the first full-scale assault on the massive Theodosian walls. Siege towers, battering rams, and endless waves of soldiers crashed against the defenses. But the ancient walls of Constantinople refused to break. Slavic forces attempted a surprise attack by sea using makeshift rafts and boats. The Roman navy intercepted them inside the narrow waters of the Golden Horn. The sea itself became a battlefield of fire, wreckage, and drowning armies. After days of relentless attacks, the Avars failed to breach the city defenses. Their siege engines burned, and their soldiers were repelled at every attempt. What seemed like an unstoppable invasion was slowly collapsing. Persian forces across the strait attempted to support the Avar siege, but Roman ships intercepted and destroyed the crossing attempt before it succeeded. The two invading armies could not unite, and the siege began to fracture. As morale collapsed, the Avars realized they could not take Constantinople. Internal disorder and Roman resistance forced them to abandon the siege. The greatest attack on the city had ended in total failure. With Constantinople safe, Heraclius began preparing a massive counteroffensive. Roman morale surged as soldiers believed the empire could now fight back. For the first time in years, the war shifted away from Roman collapse. Khosrow too continued expanding deep into Roman territory without securing his supply lines. His empire stretched across Egypt, Syria, and Mesopotamia simultaneously. What looked like unstoppable expansion was becoming dangerous overextension. Heraclius launched bold raids directly into Persian heartlands beyond the frontier. Roman forces attacked temples, cities, and military supply routes unexpectedly. The war was no longer defensive. It had become an invasion of Persia itself. Constant defeats and internal rebellion weakened Khosrow's authority across his empire. Generals began turning against him as loyalty to the crown rapidly declined. The Persian war machine started breaking apart from within. Khosrow too was overthrown by his own son after years of military disaster. The once powerful Persian ruler was imprisoned and executed shortly after. With his death, the empire entered chaos and civil war. A new Persian ruler negotiated peace with Heraclius to end the devastating war. All captured Roman territories were returned, including Jerusalem and the True Cross. After decades of destruction, the war finally came to an end. Both Rome and Persia emerged from the war severely weakened and politically unstable. Their armies were depleted, economies strained, and borders left vulnerable. Neither empire realized that a new power was rising in the south. In 632 AD, the last Roman-Persian War officially came to an end. Two ancient empires stood exhausted after centuries of continuous conflict. But beyond their borders, a new force was already preparing to reshape history.